Part 161. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1601. King, you called me here, what's the matter, hey? This is, Halfway through the conversation, the speaker also noticed the abnormality of this place and stopped talking. The person who came was none other than Xiaoming's Zerg human guard death mask. As mentioned in the previous article, with the help of Quafu Underworld as a transit, this gold saint can freely enter the main game of the magic planet. Even if the conditions are right, he can also enter certain secret realms. And what he called entering the game is actually to create a similar ability to the game warehouse in the underworld. Since the task requires the researcher to learn the ability of the Cancer Gold Saint, based on the principle of sharing the benefits, Xiaoming also brought Death Mask here. Because Xiaoming clearly felt that there were many things that could be comprehended here, far exceeding the skills that Death Mask had already mastered. It would be a bit of a waste if he didn't come to learn. Xiaoming is actually quite familiar with this way of learning. At the beginning, the Zerg Spirit Sea, the Protoss God Realm, the Skeleton Sea, and so on, all had such a mechanism. Xiaoming has become very proficient with practice. It took only an hour for Xiaoming to successfully comprehend a Cancer's special move, Guardian Talisman Cage. The battle formation made of the amulet stained with Athena's blood has the ability to weaken even the power of Hades. It is a special move used by Saint Seiya to deal with enemies like gods. This is a very rare achievement. Normal players, even in the secret realm of the Saint Seiya series, carefully taught by the master, cannot learn such advanced moves so quickly. Just to sense the microcosm, it takes a lot of time and energy. Then you have to learn some simple moves step by step from easy to difficult, and finally you can get in touch with the Guardian Talisman Cage. Xiaoming was able to learn it all at once because he was crazy about cheating. As a person who has long possessed a Gold Saint Seiya level microcosm, and at the same time is very familiar with Cancer's moves, naturally, he comprehended it quickly. Not only did Xiaoming comprehend it himself, but this move also appeared in the personal panel of the researcher. However, although the comprehension was successful, this move can only be used with the amulet stained with Athena's blood. The researcher has no amulet in his hand, and there is no small universe in his personal attributes. If Xiaoming himself is not there, the intelligent program cannot use this move. Even if Xiaoming himself is there, it still won't work without the amulet. Fortunately, the game system has been prepared. It immediately announced, the researcher's mission was successful. The results are extremely excellent and he has received the highest level of rewards. The first reward is to open the small universe for the researcher. According to the system rules, the system will never let the player soar to the sky. So the researcher's small universe is only 1000/1000 of the Bronze Saint Seiya level. And he has not yet obtained the Saint Seiya profession. For players at this stage, 1000 is already a lot. You must know that when the Dead Teller is upgraded to level 4, the magic power is less than 900. So the improvement of the player's strength is still very obvious, but it does not let the player reach the sky in one step. The second reward is to reward 100 level 3 amulets stained with Athena's blood. Now that the Cosmo and the Talisman are both available, the researcher can use this move by himself. Each time the Talisman Cage is used, 10 pieces are consumed. Moreover, the power of the third level Talisman is relatively limited. It can only be used on NPCs of levels 3-5. For third level characters, their strength is suppressed by 50%, for fourth level opponents, their strength is suppressed by 30%, as for fifth level enemies, their strength will only be weakened by 10%, and generally speaking, they still cannot be defeated. The Talisman Cage can only be used on opponents of the same or higher level as oneself. It cannot be used on people who are weaker than oneself, nor on people who are much better than oneself. Even 5th level NPCs are only C level. Xiaoming, who is S-level, said that there is no pressure. There is no need for this move at all. The intelligent program Xiao Saner may be able to use it. It's just that they are not very good at fighting, let alone the skills of those players, so it's a waste of things to use it. But then again, what's the problem with wasting it? Anyway, it will become obsolete. The intelligent programs now have their own souls. If they practice more, they will grow up in the future. As for the final third reward, it is the experience reward that Xiaoming has been looking forward to for a long time. The adventure level of the researcher rises by 5 levels, reaching the maximum level of 40 at level 3. At this time, the researcher faces a choice: should he return to Tangent City first and do the task to advance to level 4? Or should he go directly to the Temple of Athena and take advantage of this spring breeze to reach level 4? Lacking intelligence, Xiaoming could not judge the pros and cons, so he left it to the Force to choose. A few minutes later, the researcher continued to climb to the top of the mountain. As for Death Mask, he still stayed here and continued to feel the abilities that a Cancer Gold Saint should have. It is rare to have such a good opportunity. He will definitely not leave on his own initiative before he has drained the value here. As the researcher approached the Parthenon step by step, Xiaoming began to sense an indescribable small universe lingering around him. Although this small universe is already very weak, it can clearly feel the powerful strength of the original owner. There is no doubt that this must be the small universe of the goddess Athena. In addition to being powerful, this small universe also brings warmth, kindness, wisdom, and other comfortable feelings. In fact, everyone who comes here can feel this feeling vaguely. However, more than 90% of people will regard this as an illusion, delusion, or psychological suggestion. After all, those who come to worship Athena also understand the goddess's authority. It is normal to regard this as a psychological suggestion. If Xiaoming is not strong enough, he really cannot confirm the authenticity of the goddess's microcosm, let alone the authenticity of these feelings. Now it can be confirmed. Xiaoming also appropriately released a small amount of his own microcosm to contact the goddess's microcosm. As if feeling a response, Athena's microcosm guided Xiaoming through the dilapidated temple of Athena, ignored the 3-meter-high statue of Athena in the center of the temple, walked to the back of the temple. Stopped on an open space. As if inspired, the researcher began to release his own microcosm with all his strength and dedicate it to the goddess. Sure enough, this place is very special. The goddess seems to have received the researcher's dedication, and is eager to absorb the researcher's microcosm to strengthen her own microcosm. So that's it? If you want to restore the profession of Saint Cia, the first thing to restore is the goddess. Without Athena, Saint Cia has no meaning to exist. But how to revive the extremely weak Athena? Of course, replenish her microcosm. Well, goddess classmate, you have met the most suitable player. Xiaoming couldn't help whispering. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1602. In theory, normal players don't have to stay in this position. How many small universes can he have? It will be empty in a short while. So the player needs to practice seriously, fill up the small universe, come and offer it, then practice again, and offer it again. This goes on and on until he provides enough small universes for the goddess Athena to preliminarily revive. And there is a trap in the middle, that is, the goddess's small universe is actually constantly dissipating and weakening. If the player's replenishment speed cannot keep up with the dissipation speed, then you will never think of completing the task. Maybe you will be responsible for completely killing Athena. Some people may say that it is obvious that the goddess's small universe dissipates very slowly. According to the background of the game, it has been weakened for at least hundreds or thousands of years, and she is still fine. This shows that even if the goddess is extremely weak, the amount of her small universe is very large. According to common sense, it is a piece of cake to hold on for at least a few decades, no problem. From the player's point of view, it is hard to say how many years you can play this game, who cares about you decades later? So don't worry about it at all. Haha, the idea is good and reasonable. But you have already said that this is a game, how can we use common sense to speculate? In fact, before no player triggers this task, the remaining small universe of the goddess Athena will always be that strength. It will not really dissipate or weaken. It will not really dissipate until the player triggers the task, and the player will need to desperately race with the system. If the replenishment is slow, it will be miserable. I really don't know what kind of punishment will be for killing Athena. Will it be a curse from the goddess? Or hatred from a large number of European NPCs? Or hunting from certain specific NPCs? Anyway, it won't be easy. The game creation team certainly did this not to harm the players, but to follow an important principle of the game: the greater the gain, the greater the risk. Resurrecting a god and starting a new career must be accompanied by huge benefits. It is normal for the system to set up some suffering and even traps. In fact, this should be a group task. When the task is opened by a player who has learned the small universe, this player will get a certain early advantage. But the system will still open the task to all players, allowing more players to come and contribute their microcosms. They can even fight each other. According to the creative team's estimate, that is probably when the mainstream players reach level 5. After all, it is not so easy for players to legally enter Athens, a large foreign city. And with the microcosm level of ordinary players, it may take a large number of players and several months of cooperation to revive Athena. However, no matter what, as long as you encounter a cheating player, it will deteriorate. Especially when you encounter a guy like Xiaoming who has a super cheat. Xiaoming's microcosm is at the level of a gold saint. The quality may be ordinary, but the quantity is really huge. Of course, it is not enough to revive the goddess all at once. However, don't forget that Xiaoming has 5 sources of energy as a backup, which can continuously replenish the microcosm. Feeding a weak god is no problem. So the researcher only sat on the top of the Acropolis for one night. On the morning of the next day, November 14th, the task was completed. During this period, the main game was suspended for one night because it was past 8 p.m. Therefore, in fact, Xiaoming only spent 5 or 6 hours. Omega The researcher was immediately flooded with various messages sent by the system. After a while, he squinted his eyes and checked them one by one. First, the researcher opened the highest level, the Golden Myth level hidden task group, the rebirth of the goddesses of Olympus. Second, the researcher opened the second level, the red legendary level hidden task chain, the rebirth of the goddess of wisdom and war. Third, the researcher opened and completed the third level, the orange epic level hidden task, the awakening of the goddess Athena. The relationship between them is clear at a glance. The task chain belongs to the task group, and the first task of the task chain is the awakening of the goddess Athena. These tasks are hidden tasks, which means that the player himself does not know that he is doing the task. Only when the task is completed will he be informed and rewarded by the system. The reason why the hidden tasks are hidden is mainly to increase the difficulty for the players. For many hidden tasks, as long as the players know the name, they can find the direction of the task. These tasks are proof of this. I believe that most players will immediately understand the general concept of the task once they see the terms Olympus gods and goddess Athena. They also know that they should come to Athens, Greece to look for clues. That's why they need to hide. Players can only guess the existence of this task through some clues. Xiaoming actually judged through various phenomena that there should be related tasks in Athens. He even had certain expectations for the expansion of the task to such a large scale. The appearance of such a high-level task group and task chain did not surprise him, it was just something expected. However, the reward for completing the first ring of the task was quite surprising. First, the adventure level of the researcher was promoted to level 4. Due to his outstanding contribution, the upper limit of the researcher's microcosm has increased by 1000. What a pleasant surprise! You know, it is not easy to increase this special attribute. Think about the reminder of the Force to Xiaoming before, it is probably because of this. In a horizontal comparison, the second combat profession of the researcher is Naruto, but now his chakra limit is still 100. This kind of attribute needs hard practice to improve. Xiaoming has his own chakra available, so he is too lazy to practice specifically. The intelligent program Xiao Saner knows to practice when he has time. However, because there is too little chakra, it will be gone after playing a few times, resulting in the inability of the intelligent program to practice diligently. After so long, it still has not been improved. This is the characteristic of all special attributes. Because of the small amount, they can only supplement the normal combat method of the player character, and cannot become the main combat method. Occasionally, it may be used up by a surprise, but generally speaking, it cannot be used frequently. To get more attribute limits, normal players cannot rely on hard practice alone. They also have to find ways to do the corresponding tasks. It is rare for a researcher to obtain a 2000-point upper limit of the microcosm. The microcosm can indeed become his main combat mode. But that is also a reward for completing extremely difficult tasks. In fact, as a player who is capable of completing these difficult tasks, Xiaoming really doesn't value these 2000 points of microcosm. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1603. What really surprised Xiaoming was that when he was promoted to level 4, the main profession, first combat profession, of the researcher changed and became a Saint Seiya alchemist. Usually, additional combat professions such as Naruto, Hunter x Hunter, Taoist, and so on are added to the player's attribute panel in the form of a second combat profession. They only bring a special attribute to the player, such as chakra, telekinesis, spiritual power, and some corresponding tricks and skills. However, it does not affect the regular attributes of player characters such as strength, physique, life, mana, which is an additional embellishment and icing on the cake. The first special case is Jedi Knight. The explorer opened the Jedi Knight profession, and as a result, this profession was merged with the explorer's first combat profession. And it greatly affected these attributes. Because the Jedi Knight was integrated into the first combat profession, the attribute points obtained by the explorer after upgrading have undergone earth-shaking changes. For the original third-level explorer, every 5 levels, the strength, constitution, and agility will increase by 2.5 points each, intelligence and spirit will increase by 4 points each, and the free attribute points for players to allocate will increase by 2. After becoming a Jedi Knight, the explorer will increase by 5 points for every 5 levels, and the free attribute points will increase by 3. Every 5 levels will increase by nearly 20 points, which is a huge difference. However, Xiaoming thought it was a special case. After all, the explorer's main job is to be an ascetic, and it has the characteristics of integrating other professions. The ability to integrate Jedi Knights is the result of the combined power of 2 sources. Xiaoming has never regarded this as normal. Now it seems that he is probably wrong. Because the alchemist of the researcher does not have the fusion function, the Saint Seiya profession can actually become the first combat profession. The effect is also extremely obvious. After the researcher has the Saint Seiya profession, the growth rate of the 4th level becomes, every 5 levels, the 5 attributes increase by 7 points, and the free attribute increases by 3 points. This is higher than the growth rate of the explorer, but the Explorer is at level 3, and the Delver is at level 4, so it is definitely different. When the Explorer reaches level 4, it will definitely catch up. This shows that some relatively strong professions can still be integrated into the first combat profession after the player makes enough efforts. Maybe the Taoist priest has this possibility. After all, the main profession of the Explorer's master Gongsun Sheng is a Taoist priest. Even Hunter x Hunter and Naruto may not be impossible, but it is more difficult. Jedi Knight was integrated into the Explorer's first combat profession with the help of the power of Source Energy. Saint Seiya was awarded to the Delver because of the difficult task. It is really hard to say what conditions are required for other professions. Back to the point, after being promoted to level 4, the 5 attributes of the Delver are as follows: Strength 34, Constitution 34, Agility 50, Intelligence 68, Spirit 68. Excluding equipment, the Delver has 680 health points, 680 physical strength, and 1360 magic power. Very awesome. This is also closely related to the researcher's employment as a Saint Seiya. Because the attributes before employment have also been briefly shown on the researcher's personal panel. At that time, the 3 data were 408, 612, and 816, which is a world of difference. It can be seen that the changes brought by powerful professions are also comprehensive. At the same time, since the alchemist profession is still retained, the researcher can still use all the skills of the alchemist normally. In fact, apart from Xiao Ming's personal ability, the researcher only knows one Saint Seiya trick, which is Guardian Cage, and he does not have much combat ability. Before learning enough Saint Seiya skills, he still has to fight in the way of an alchemist. In addition, after the unremitting efforts of the researcher, his life profession has finally been promoted from an apprentice scholar to a junior scholar. Another life profession, the cartographer, has been promoted before. The promotion of the scholar seems to have no effect. There are no new life skills to learn, and no old skills to upgrade, which seems to be useless. However, Xiao Ming can clearly feel the difference. The profession of scholar can promote other professions, especially the professions that require brains. Although there is no clear change in the data, Xiao Ming can feel that the success rate of the researcher in mapping and alchemy has increased slightly. This is a much desired effect for an alchemist, and for a Saint Seiya, it is a little bit of a relief. Since the goddess Athena has been resurrected, she not only needs the replenishment of the microcosm, but also the faith and offerings of humans. In the game of Magic Planet, a player or NPC can believe in multiple gods at the same time. Except for very few exceptions, there is no conflict between different beliefs. As a Saint Seiya, the researcher automatically becomes a believer of Athena, and is currently the only believer. Therefore, the researcher automatically obtains the title of Athena's first believer. As an additional reward, the researcher is allowed to become one of the 88 genuine Saint Seiya and can choose a holy garment by himself. And the system specially treats it preferentially and does not limit the type. In other words, even if Xiao Ming plans to choose a golden holy garment, it is also possible. After choosing the holy clothes will teach the player the corresponding moves. However, they are not free, and players need to exchange them with small universes. Of course, part of the small universe can also be replaced by gold coins, but the amount is extremely large and cannot exceed half of the total. Because at present, Athena needs small universes more. This is both a rare opportunity and a terrible trap. Players must find a balance between ambition and reality. Why do I say that? As the saying goes, a hat should be worn according to the size of the head. Even if a normal player chooses a set of gold armor, he can't play it at all. You know, even a researcher now only has 2000 points of small universe. This is just the level of a bronze saint. The small universe of a silver saint must be at least over 10,000, while the small universe of a gold saint is tens of thousands, and even hundreds of thousands or millions are not uncommon. This is the difference in hard power. Even for a researcher, it is like this, not to mention those more ordinary players. First of all, they can't afford the small universe and gold coins to exchange for the moves of the gold saint. It is conceivable that the amount must be very huge. How can ordinary players afford it? Secondly, even if the player himself has not learned the moves exchanged, the game character will definitely use them. This is also the feature of the game, allowing players to experience things they can't do. But knowing how to use and being able to use are two different things. Without a gold saint level Cosmo, it is difficult to use the gold saint's moves. It is just a decoration. Finally, although the gold cloth has excellent defense and a very high bonus to attack power, its consumption is also very terrifying. Without a gold saint level Cosmo, it can't last long at all, and will instead exhaust its energy. Therefore, if the player chooses the gold cloth, it means that he is very confident in his development ability. Wait until the later stage, and then give full play to the power of the gold cloth. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1604. For normal players, it would be wiser to choose from the 48 bronze armors or the 24 silver armors. If you choose the bronze armor, you can basically use the armor to a limited extent. If you choose the silver armor, you probably don't have to wait too long, maybe just do a few more tasks. Only the gold armor is too ambitious. However, the group of players is the group with the most Shuyunibu. They may not consider the benefits at all and go straight for the 12 gold armors. Even if they can't use it, they will force themselves to choose the gold armor. If for nothing else, it's because the gold armor is the most handsome and the most stylish, and it's a perfect tool for picking up girls and pretending to be cool. Xiaoming has a little bit of Shuyunibu, not to mention that with his little universe, he can completely support the gold armor. The problem he faces is not whether to choose the gold armor, but which gold armor should he choose. If you get the armor, you can inherit the power of that constellation. Of course, how much you can learn depends on the quality of the player. In the game, the player's financial resources may be more important. Xiaoming estimates that as long as the player can offer enough small universes and gold coins to Athena, most of the tricks and skills of a constellation can be bought. It is hard to say whether the player has mastered it, but it is definitely in the skill list of the game character. If you practice more, the player can probably learn it gradually. It can be said that in this way, Xiaoming has benefited a lot from the Magic Planet game. It is almost certain that the system will set some of the most powerful and magical tricks to a state that cannot be purchased. It depends on the player to understand it by himself, or prepare to do the task. This is another topic. Xiaoming is rich and is considering which constellation he prefers. The most suitable one for Xiaoming at present is naturally the Cancer gold cloth. Unfortunately, the cost-effectiveness is too low. After all, I already know most of the tricks of Cancer, so it would be a waste to choose it. It is better to choose a new cloth and learn more new skills. Xiaoming had also served as the Shadow Pope of the Saint Xia, and he was quite familiar with the abilities of the 12 gold saints. This choice was not difficult to make. Virgo gold cloth was Xiaoming's final choice after careful consideration. When this gold cloth was put on, Xiaoming could sense the powerful and profound inheritance behind it, which was the power from another mythological system, Buddhism. This made Xiaoming feel that the Virgo gold saints seemed to be international students or foreign aid. They were lent to the goddess Athena by the Buddha lineage to build friendship. The ability of the system, to comprehend the cycle of life and death, to shuttle through endless worlds, is simply unfathomable. It requires a very high level of understanding from the user. Because of this, most abilities cannot be traded. Only some relatively basic skills can be purchased. Virgo gold cloth, 7th level suit, the researcher as the owner, is allowed to wear it by the goddess Athena. For the time being, no one else can wear this cloth. Equipment effect: the life of the researcher increases by 10,000, the strength increases by 10,000, the overall defense increases by 5,000, and the overall attack increases by 5,000. Look at yourself again, no matter which attribute, it is only a fraction of the equipment attribute. It is simply embarrassing to see people. Even if the researcher is promoted to level 7 and officially becomes a gold saint, its normal vitality and physical strength are only about 10,000. Wearing the holy clothes is equivalent to doubling. Just ask if you are strong. By analogy with other sets, Xiaoming found that the holy clothes do not increase the magic power of the player, because the saints should use physical strength to fight with the small universe. At the same time, it does not increase the upper limit of the player's small universe, because the small universe must come from the character and the player himself. The holy clothes are offensive and defensive equipment. After wearing them, not only can you not wear other protective gear, but you can't even hold weapons. The reason is that the goddess hates weapons and only allows the saints to fight with their bodies. Only a few holy clothes come with weapons, which is an exception. For example, the Libra Gold holy clothes have 12 powerful weapons. Sagittarius also has a bow and arrow. There are also a few other silver and bronze armors that come with weapons. However, most saints fight with their fists and feet. Therefore, the armor not only gives the saints strong defense, but also gives them strong attack bonuses. At the same time, the armor's defense and attack are very comprehensive. It does not distinguish whether it is a physical attack or a magic attack, physical defense or magic defense, it is all the same. Powerful attributes are naturally accompanied by huge consumption. Wearing the Virgo Gold armor consumes 500 points of Cosmos per minute. With the Delver's Cosmos limit of 2000, even if he does nothing, it only takes 4 minutes for that little Cosmo to be consumed. Once he makes a move, it is estimated that he will be empty in 1 or 2 moves. Without the Cosmos, the armor will automatically fall off. If the enemy is smart, he doesn't even need to fight the Delver. If it drags on for 4 minutes, the gold armor will be useless. Someone asked, if it is consumed at this rate, let alone the bronze saint, even the gold saint himself can't withstand this consumption, right? This is what happened. The level of Saint Seiya depends on the rank of the player character. A researcher must reach level 5 to become a bronze saint, which is considered to be a real organization. At level 6, he will become a silver saint, and at level 7, he will become a gold saint. Of course, there are quotas in this regard. At the same time, each piece of saint cloth also has the potential for upward promotion. As long as the conditions are met, the bronze armor can also be transformed into the silver armor, or even the gold armor. This is not the pinnacle. If higher conditions are met, it can also become the legendary divine armor. If Xiaoming follows the plot in the world of Saint Seiya and does not make any changes, he will have the opportunity to obtain information about the divine armor. Unfortunately, he did not follow the plot closely. Back to the point, when the player reaches level 5, his small universe will automatically recover a little every minute. When it comes to the 7th level of the Gold Saint, the small universe recovered every minute is 1000 points. Not only is it more than enough to bear the consumption of the armor, but it can also replenish the consumption in battle. Again, the bigger the head, the bigger the hat. Of course, there is one thing that must be made clear. This is just a magic modification of the Saint Seiya profession by the Magic Planet game. The real Saint Seiya and the armor do not work like this. Bronze Saint Seiya, especially the 5 little strong men such as Seiya, often wear gold armor to fight. In the game, this is simply impossible. In addition, the gold cloth of the Virgo Gold cloth also brings some moves, skills, for players to learn, purchase. Xiaoming is rich and bought them all at once. However, there are more moves that cannot be bought at all, and players need to comprehend them by themselves. Most of these skills are not displayed. Only a small number of skills related to those that have been bought by researchers are slightly reflected. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1605. In fact, Saint Seiya is a series of works, from comics to film and television, with a very long time span, covering several generations of holy wars. Among so many works, the most important and basic one is Saint Seiya. The world of reincarnation that Xiaoming has experienced is also this world. In fact, it is a world where comics and cartoons are combined. It accepted the characters of the Odin god warriors that appeared in the cartoon, but gave up the Iron Saint warriors, which is considered a mixed version. The legacy of the 88 saints in the main game of Magic Planet is based on this work. The characters in other works will be hidden in a deeper layer. Originally the rebirth of the Olympus gods was a hidden mission group, and those were the hidden within the hidden. Isn't the creator afraid of hiding it so deeply that no one can find it? The researcher obtained this golden saint cloth of the Virgin, and the inheritance of its ability came from Shaka. This person is so awesome. Legend has it that Shakya is the reincarnation of Buddha and can talk to gods and Buddhas since he was a child. Shaka and many of his friends at the same time became golden saints at the age of 7. He is a terrifying existence who has understood the reincarnation of life and death at a young age and can talk to gods and Buddhas. He is known as the man closest to God among the golden saints. He is also the only one among the saints who can awaken the eighth sense of the small universe, Alaya consciousness, without relying on the blood of the goddess. The basic strength has surpassed S-class. Shaka's heritage is as vast as the ocean. Unfortunately, even if players spend money, they can only get some of the most basic abilities to play with. The advanced version is not available at all. First of all, Shaka has a variety of powerful superpowers. If you take a closer look, Xiaoming also knows most of the abilities of Shaka Club, but they are not as sophisticated as him. It doesn't matter whether you learn or not. But after learning it, when I am not playing games, these abilities will be quite helpful for intelligent programs to play games. Of course, most of these abilities require the consumption of small universes, and it is estimated that Xiao San'er will not have the opportunity to use them often. It would be better to do more tasks and accumulate some small universes for him. One extremely powerful mental power. Shaka is immune to all mental attacks, and any illusion has no effect on him. In this regard, players can spend money to purchase a passive skill, primary mental immunity. It can be immune to a certain degree of mental attacks. You can't buy it if you are above the intermediate level. 2. Mind control. Shaka can read all the opponent's inner thoughts and past memories, and can also modify, seal, or add the opponent's memories. It contains a wide range of mental abilities, and all phenomena related to the mind can be controlled with one hand. Similar to Professor X's abilities, but more powerful. Delvers purchase basic mind mastery. Can sense other people's emotions to a certain extent. 3. Thought power. One of the superpowers attached to the sixth sense of the small universe, it can control matter or energy through thoughts. People with extremely powerful telekinesis like Shaka can manipulate atoms to form any substance. They can also tear apart time and space with their thoughts and transfer objects or people through time and space. Xiaoming spent a lot of small universes and exchanged them for the primary version of telekinesis. Can move objects with a mass of about 10 kilograms using thoughts. 4. Space distortion. Shaka can zigzag the space, deflecting any attacks from his opponent, or he can torture his opponent by directly attacking them. The researcher has acquired the basic level space distortion skill, which can only deflect attacks from level 4 enemies and cannot be used to attack others. The 2 superpowers of Shaka mentioned next are not for sale. Put it there for players to drool over. Of course, for those ambitious players, this is the direction of their efforts. Heaven is in good health, and a gentleman strives to constantly strive for self-improvement. 5. Telepathy. One of the superpowers of the sixth sense of the small universe, it transcends the five senses, interacts with the mental mood of a living person, and transmits one's thoughts to the other person's brain. Therefore, even if there is a language barrier, it will not affect the conversation between the two parties. Although it is only the ability of the sixth sense, it is an indispensable means of communication for the Golden Saint. The Golden Saint's sensing range can even conduct spiritual conversations across dimensions, universes, and time and space. Xiaoming is roughly at this level, but he is too lazy to use it. 6. Teleport. One of the superpowers of the sixth sense of the small universe is that it can reach someone's place instantly without going through any path, and it can also move people or even an army. If the Golden Saint wants to reach a place with a distance of light years, or an area that cannot be reached by conventional means, he needs to move instantly. It can be seen that Xiaoming knows more or less of these superpowers. It's just that in terms of application, it is far from Shaka's level. In addition to superpowers, the physical abilities of each Golden Saint cannot be underestimated. Even the most basic abilities. Therefore, these abilities are not for sale either. 1. Flying at the speed of light. The Golden Saint can break the laws of heaven and earth in the universe and fly at faster than light speeds. This kind of physical ability that is enough to travel in the universe with only the physical body allows them to travel between planets without the need for spaceships and other means of transportation. But it is difficult for the Golden Saint to exceed the speed of light on the surface of the planet, because breaking the laws of physics at will have an impact on the entire world. 2. Lightspeed punch. The common moves of the Golden Saint are known as royal tactics that have been passed down since ancient times. The attack power is extremely powerful. Each Golden Saint also has different uses. Xiaoming is slightly lacking in this aspect. However, due to his ability to manipulate time and the bonus of the Dragon Warrior, he can also achieve a similar effect. In fact, with these basic abilities alone, the Golden Saint is already extremely powerful. If he uses the exclusive skills, he will be even more invincible. Because these skills are too powerful, the goddess only allows the researcher to buy one of them. After all, he is the first believer, it is not appropriate not to let him buy it, at least he should show some respect. But if he gives too much, the goddess will not be willing to give it, and she plans to use it to lure players to work hard in the future. So she only sells one move. Several of the available moves are Akalanatha, Sky Tyrant Ghosts and Monsters, 6 Paths of Reincarnation, Demon Subjugation, and Heavenly Dance Treasure Wheel. This is actually not complete. Shaka also has 2 major mysteries, Divine Eyes Axing and Tai Chi Diagram. But because they are too powerful, the system does not intend to let the current researcher see them. Even the other 5 moves only have names and prices. There is no explanation or introduction. It is like letting Xiaoming open a blind box with his eyes closed. Anyway, they are all unparalleled skills, and it is not a loss to get any of them. Thinking back to the reincarnation world, Yin Xiaoming once meditated beside Shaka, and he had an indescribable familiarity with Shaka and his abilities. There is really no need to guess blindly, just choose Tianwu Bailun. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1606. In Hindu legend, the great god Shiva is the highest god in Hinduism, the god of destruction, one of the 3 main gods, and the heavenly dance wheel is Shiva's magic weapon. He dared to use this word as the name of his secret, which shows how powerful Shaka's move is. Xiaoming chose it for this reason. Heavenly dance wheel, the perfect battle formation created by Shaka, who knows all the truths of the universe, is the greatest secret. If the enemy is trapped in it, he can neither attack nor escape, and his senses are deprived one by one, and he will lose the 5 senses that are extremely important for combat, as well as the 6th sense of spirit and thinking. When Shaka's microcosm is enhanced to the extreme, he can also deprive the opponent of all 5 senses at once. Before using the heavenly dance wheel to deprive the opponent of his 5 senses, Shaka can also shout the sound of OM, burn the microcosm from his hand to attack the enemy, and defeat him instantly. In reality, if you want to use this move, you must reach a level similar to Shaka, which is a realm that even Xiaoming, a senior civil servant in the underworld, has not reached. Fortunately, this is a game, so there is a compromise. Tianhui alone appears in the skill list of the researcher in the form of a skill. This skill is divided into 6 sections. They are starting the formation, the first attack, the second attack, until the 5th attack, the skill ends. Starting the formation requires 100,000 points of small universe. It can trap all enemies currently attacking it at the same time, making them almost unable to move. After that, you can launch an attack every 3 minutes. Consume 20,000 points of small universe, randomly deprive all enemies trapped in the formation of a sense, and weaken their vitality by January 5th. When the skill is launched, even if the enemy does not die, it is basically dying. The reason why it is possible not to die is that the enemy will automatically restore a certain amount of vitality at the same time. Omicron equals Omega equals Rho. Just a joke. When Shaka uses this trick, he often talks back to the enemy for a long time, maybe just waiting for the 3 minutes of skill CD. In addition, depending on the rank and number of trapped enemies, this formation consumes a lot of small universe every minute. Therefore, this formation is not suitable for dealing with the weak, which is like using a cannon to kill a mosquito. It should be used to deal with extremely powerful enemies, or to deal with sieges by multiple opponents of the same level. And Xiaoming also found that the Tianhui alone skill obtained by the researcher is actually a castrated version. It does not have the ability to deprive the 6th sense, nor can it deprive the enemy of 5 senses at once. As for the OM sound attack that can instantly defeat the enemy, there is no shadow. What a pity. In fact, whether it is a complete version or not, Xiaoming will basically not encounter opponents who need to use Tianhui alone in the game. At least the 4th level researchers will not encounter it. Xiaoming chose this skill for only one purpose. That is to use it in the game so that he can experience the feeling of performing this move. I hope to learn it in reality in the future. Of course, it is not the time to think about these trivial matters now, and we have to continue to do business. Athena's awakening. There are still rewards for this task. The first reward of the task is to obtain the official Saint Seiya profession, and the upper limit of the small universe is increased by 1000. The second reward is to choose a holy garment with constellation inheritance. The last reward is to give the researcher the authority to build the Temple of Athena. From today, Athena will give the researcher a cornerstone of the Temple of Athena every month. This cornerstone can be used to build a primary Temple of Athena, or to strengthen an existing Temple of Athena. How to use it is up to the player. With the cornerstone, as long as you hire an architect and prepare enough materials, you can build the Temple of Athena. This is not even limited to the adventure map. If the player has the ability, he can also build a temple in the strategic map. However, the temple is not all right after it is built. It must be managed carefully. The researcher is the manager of the temple he built, and must attract enough incense and believers. Otherwise, the temple that no one worships will drag down the goddess who has just resurrected. In that case, the researcher will have negative points in the eyes of the goddess. On the contrary, if the temple is well managed, the researcher will naturally gain the favor of the goddess. In the future, there is also a greater hope to compete for the position of the goddess's agent in the world, the Pope. Although the system did not say it clearly, Xiaoming estimated that this would definitely happen. Becoming the Pope can command the lords by the goddess, holding the emperor hostage, and can command all the saints, including the 12 gold saints. What a great power! Haha, actually not much power, because so far, only the gold cloth of the Virgin has been given to the researcher. The other 11 are still nowhere to be seen. Besides, the researcher only has the cloth, and has not yet been recognized as a gold saint by the system. I have to continue to do the task and help the goddess Athena. The second link of the task chain, the orange epic task Glory of Athena. In order to reproduce the glory of the goddess Athena, the player researcher needs to meet the following conditions. 1. Build a temple of Athena. 2. The temple has at least 100 believers. 3. Recruit at least 3 new saints. The time limit is 3 months, and there is no upper limit on the specific number of saints to be achieved. There is no upper limit, that is, the more the better. This is Xiaoming's favorite task type. The better the player's performance, the more rewards Athena will naturally give. And this kind of reward is likely to be the upper limit of the microcosm. For this task, the researcher did not even have the power to choose, and he accepted it automatically. Who made him the first believer of Athena and the most powerful candidate for the Pope? If you want to wear the crown, you must bear its weight. Since the reward is the best, the responsibility you should bear is naturally the greatest. You know, this is a competitive task. Since the goddess has awakened, there will definitely be other players who will receive the same task in the future. It is impossible to focus on only one player. If other players' scores are much higher than the researcher, then the title of the first believer will most likely be replaced. It is conceivable that this kind of task is actually most suitable for the guild leader to do. Lead the entire player guild to spread the glory of the goddess. Compared with individual players, it is much simpler. With the collective resources of the guild, the construction needs of a primary temple can be easily met. For a large guild, it is not difficult to build an intermediate temple. If all guild members choose to believe in Athena, the task of recruiting believers can also be completed in excess. This is actually the simplest condition. It is only a little difficult to train 3 saints, but as long as the main players of the guild work hard, the difficulty is not very high. If it really doesn't work, spend a lot of money to get a ticket and go to the Saint Seiya secret realm. Under the training of professionals, isn't it easy to train 3 saints? The requirements here are not saints above bronze. As long as the microcosm attribute is activated and 3 apprentice saints are obtained, the mission conditions can be barely met. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1607. To date, the Magic Planet game has been running for more than 5 months, and it has been 4 months since mainstream players entered the 3rd level. Although there is strength in numbers, the top few guilds, after the unremitting efforts of all members, still cannot catch up with Xiaoming's 4 characters in terms of financial resources. The reason for this is that the internal friction between the players has been too serious in the past few months, and the major guilds have fought each other happily. As a result, wealth has not been accumulated. So since the big guilds have the financial resources to build an intermediate temple, then Xiaoming actually has the financial resources to build a larger temple as long as he is willing to spend money. The researcher looked around. Isn't he standing on the ruins of the temple of Athena? Since he wants to build a temple, he should choose here and rebuild the temple of Athena. As for the question of architects, our source energy is the best architect. Xiaoming couldn't help but start to fantasize that not only this temple of Athena was restored, but it would be best if the entire sanctuary was awakened by his source energy and reproduced its former glory. Unfortunately, fantasy is fantasy after all, and the Greek sanctuary is definitely not something that can be reproduced at this stage. Even the system does not allow players to build this main temple of Athena. The system gave an explanation for this. The prerequisite for building the main temple of Athena is that at least 6 of the 12 golden palaces must be built. Each palace is actually a special temple of Athena. Because only the saint Caelia who has the holy cloth of the constellation can build it. Therefore, although Xiaoming has enough financial resources, he can only build his own first palace of the first woman first. The others have to wait for other gold saints to build them themselves. This is not enough. When there are more than 6 gold saints, the Pope can be selected from them. Then the papal hall must be built first before the main temple of Athena can be built. Needless to say, this is another long list of complicated and troublesome tasks. But it is also reasonable. With so many gold saints, the goddess can have enough small universe to recover. Don't aim too high. The researcher, wearing the gold cloth of Virgo, turned down the mountain to find the original site of Virgo Palace. It didn't take much time. After all, the gold cloth still had memories of his hometown. Soon the researcher stopped by a forest. Standing here in the cloth, Xiaoming felt that the air around him seemed to come alive, and the whole environment was expressing to the researcher the emotion of welcoming the owner home. Xiaoming once again took out the cornerstone of the Temple of Athena. Before using it, Xiaoming did not forget to test whether it could be copied. The result was naturally not possible. After all, it was not this simple stone that really worked, but the divine thoughts given by the goddess Athena, or the authority given by the system. This could not be copied, so the only way was to use the stone. About half an hour later, the first normally operating intermediate Athena temple finally appeared on Mount Acropolis, the 6th palace of the Golden 12 Palaces, Virgo Palace. Since it was his own nest, Xiaoming was willing to spend money. This intermediate temple cost Xiaoming more than 10 million gold coins, hundreds of various resources, and a large amount of source energy. Looking at the magnificent and majestic first female palace, Xiaoming felt a little regretful. The palace can be built, but the famous Shallow Twin Trees Garden cannot be built with source energy. It's not that the source energy is not advanced enough, but Xiaoming's understanding of Buddhism is completely incomparable to Shaka. It's meaningless to only achieve a seemingly reasonable level. He should still focus on the other 2 task requirements. Xiaoming is not worried about recruiting 100 believers. Don't you see where this is, Athens, Greece? If Athena has a home in the world, it must be here. Most of the Greek residents here still miss Athena. Some are always willing to believe in the goddess. It's just because there is no temple to place their faith. Now the first temple of Athena has reappeared on Mount Acropolis. It won't be long before it will be filled with believers. In fact, at this moment, some Greek residents in the distance have seen the temple of Athena in the first palace, and are rushing here shouting and yelling. Fortunately, this is a game. After the temple is built, the NPCs will naturally be informed of some situations by the system, and the researcher does not need to explain to everyone one by one, otherwise it will annoy him to death. As the manager of the temple, the researcher temporarily opened the main hall in the center of the temple, which runs through the front and back. There is a statue of Athena here, and they can worship and offer sacrifices when they come. On both sides of the main hall, there are 3 floors and 2 rows of various large and small rooms, which are used by the staff. It cannot be opened yet. There is no one. Now the researcher has no time to take care of the daily work of the temple, and it is most important to cultivate the Saint Caelia. A space door appeared out of thin air next to the researcher, and the first person selected by Xiaoming walked out of it des Masque. This buddy is actually a special player in the game. But he doesn't care about the player's program at all. He doesn't fight monsters, upgrade, or do tasks. He just wanders around in the game. To him, the game is like a world of its own. He doesn't know if he will be accepted by the goddess Athena here. Anyway, when Death Mask entered the first maiden palace and saw the statue of Athena, he was very excited. Because he could feel Athena's lively microcosm from the statue. He immediately knelt down in front of the statue, and a large amount of microcosm was dedicated to Athena, who had just been resurrected for less than an hour. The amount he paid was several times more than what Xiaoming paid. Although, after being reborn as a personal guard of the insect race, Det Mask's first loyalty has shifted to Xiaoming, but he has never forgotten the goddess Athena. As long as the insect king allows, he is very willing to believe in and protect Athena. Now he is much stronger than in his previous life and can better protect the goddess. If he is not allowed, it may arouse his rebellious psychology. Xiaoming certainly agreed, and the goddess Athena in the game accepted Det Mask even more eagerly. This is a master who is comparable to the strongest gold saint in a small universe, and his strength is much stronger than that of the first believer, the researcher. More importantly, Athena can feel that Det Mask's extremely devout belief in her is far above the researcher. How can such a person not want it? So, the third condition of the researcher's mission was immediately completed by January 3rd. Not only that, Athena immediately listed Det Mask as the second believer. Det Mask also received the goddess's reward and mission. Unlike Xiaoming, the playboy, he still chose the Cancer gold cloth. In fact, he now has a set of armor with the same style and color. However, this set is not the gold cloth, but the bug cloth. After all, he cannot bring the Cancer gold cloth in reality into the game, but the bug cloth of the bug human clan is a kind of ability that can be used anywhere. Det Mask's bug cloth has always been exactly the same as the gold cloth. But the combat ability is quite inferior. So Det Mask happily put on the gold cloth in the game. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1608. Looking at Det Mask, wearing the Cancer gold cloth, dancing and jumping around in the hall to show off. Xiaoming was speechless for a while. It's not like you haven't worn the gold cloth before. Why are you showing off when you wear it in the game today? Can this one be better than the one in real life? Xiaoming doesn't understand others. Det Mask doesn't care about the cloth, but the goddess Athena. In the world of Saint Seiya, after the Holy War ended, he was reincarnated as a worm man and thought he would never have the chance to be loyal to the goddess again in this life. Unexpectedly, he entered the game and met the goddess Athena again. Although there is a slight difference in the microcosm, this new goddess is basically the same as the goddess of that year. In fact, even if the difference is very big, with Det Mask's mentality, it is probably not easy to tell. He really misses the goddess too much. Therefore, it is understandable that he shows off a little after finding the goddess. The researcher waited for him to play for a while, and when he saw that some NPCs were about to come to the vicinity of the first Maiden Palace, he stopped Cancer. Okay, Xiao Di, stop being so boastful. Did you also accept the task of Glory of Athena? Do you want my help? We have money. Det Mask naturally noticed that outsiders were approaching, and he stopped his excessive movements and posed in the cool posture of a gold saint. After a little thought, he rejected the king's offer. King, please allow me to refuse. I think I should go out and find people with predestined relationships to raise funds, and use the money to build a temple to represent my piety to the goddess. Well, this guy seems to be more pious to Athena than to himself. Fortunately, he was a rough man, and the researcher didn't feel bad, and immediately replied. Okay. It's up to you to decide. If you need money or resources in the future, don't be embarrassed, you can always ask me for it. Oh, by the way, remember that the first temple should be. Understood. We must build the Cancer Palace first, I understand. I'll take my leave first. Det Mask understood what the king meant as soon as he heard it, and answered it directly, but it was a pity that he didn't get any extra points. As soon as the voice fell, a golden light flashed and disappeared immediately. Haha, Xiaoming smiled bitterly and muttered to himself, this kid really doesn't waste time. Okay, then I'll switch too. After supporting a Cancer Gold Saint death mask, the researcher should actually continue to do the task of the goddess Athena. The next step is to call the two sworn brothers, the eldest sister Lihuame and the second brother Richard, and the eldest sister's adjutant uncle Yang Zio, who can also be invited. The three of them have had their microcosms opened by Xiaoming. Lihuame is about the advanced level of Silver Saint, and the two men are also at the level of Bronze Saint. Pulling them here, this part of the task will be completed in excess. Maybe, the eldest sister can go one step further and choose a Gold Saint. However, Xiaoming considered that the residents of Athens outside were about to come in, and it would take a long time to deal with them. Why should I waste time here? Let the intelligent program Xiao-san operate the researcher to receive them, and there are three great gods, Odin, Poseidon, and Hades, waiting for me to wake them up. Hurry up and change people. So, Xiaoming instantly switched to the dead, opened the space door and pulled the explorer over. Fan Rui and Song Xiaofeng beside him didn't react at all, and after a while they found that their companions were gone. Xiaoming didn't dare to use the researcher to teleport the explorer directly in the first girl's palace. Because he was worried that the explorer might be favored by the goddess and took the initiative to invite him. At that time, it would be bad for the explorer to agree or refuse. If he refused, he would lose face for Athena, and he would worry that the researcher would be framed in the future. If he agreed, he would disrupt his deployment, which was not acceptable. Therefore, Xiaoming was diligent for once. First, he switched to the dead, opened the space gate in the public area, and pulled the explorer. Then he switched to the explorer. The destination was the Temple of Odin located on Mount Nymphus. The Temple of Athena was easy to say, as it was originally here, but shouldn't Odin's hometown be in the Norse Fairy Palace? The original site was estimated to be located near the Arctic Circle. So what was the matter with the ruins of the Temple of Odin in Athens? Could it be just an ordinary temple, like the ruins of the Temple of Athena in Syracuse, which would not work at all? That would be a waste of emotion. But he thought about it and felt that there was a way. After all, Athena, Odin, Poseidon, and Hades all had temples in Athens, which must not be a coincidence. So it was possible that this Temple of Odin worked. With a nervous mood and facing many strange looks, the explorer began to climb Mount Nymphus. This mountain is much higher than Mount Acropolis. After halfway up the mountain, there is no surface, and the mountain is covered with ice and snow all year round. Probably to get closer to the environment of Northern Europe. Such a cold place, few local Greeks are willing to come, except for a few people who particularly worship Odin. Therefore, many people find it strange that the explorer climbed the mountain. However, Athens is an international metropolis after all. There are many races from all over the world. There are also people who immigrated here from Northern Europe. In fact, they and the people around them who were affected are the main believers who worship Odin. Unfortunately, there are not many people, and they are gradually dwindling. Because more and more people are gradually assimilated by the locals, the belief in Odin is getting weaker and weaker. After the explorer climbed over halfway up the mountain, he could hardly see anyone. Only once in a while could he see one person every 100 meters or so. It seemed that they were not believers, but just came here to ski. When he reached the highest point, there was really no one. This place was a cliff covered with glaciers. There was no way to go up, and it was all ice that went straight up and down. This made Xiaoming feel a lot more relieved. The principle of the Magic Planet game is, the more benefits, the greater the difficulties. If the ruins of the Temple of Odin on the top of the mountain could not do anything, the system probably would not set so many difficulties. Having difficulties means that there is a high probability of considerable benefits ahead. Of course, it is still possible to go in vain. If there is no such difficulty, it is almost certain that it is a wasted trip. This kind of ice cliff is not something that a 4th level player can climb, not to mention that there is always a fierce and violent cold wind raging above the cliff. Even players of levels 5 and May 6 find it difficult to go up. Of course, this is not difficult for Xiaoming at all. He didn't even bother to squat and pose. He just used his feet to activate alchemy. An icicle, sticking to the cliff, rose slowly from under the explorer's feet. Like an elevator, it pushed his body higher and higher, straight to the top of the mountain. The cold wind blew the tattered cloak of the ascetic suit, swaying left and right around the explorer. It was not handsome at all, but it was a pity for this atmosphere. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1609. Standing on the icicle and rising all the way, Xiaoming began to sort out the situation of the explorer role. To be honest, the explorer is the least impressive of the four roles. In the past few months, the explorer has been staying in the Tokyo Bianliang city on the adventure map and has hardly left the city. The main purpose is to do business and make money. During this period, Xiaoming has accumulated a huge amount of wealth in the game, basically relying on the base of Bianliang city. Xiaoer, the intelligent program that operates the explorer, has made great contributions. Whether it is the Northern Song dynasty in the adventure map or the late Ming dynasty in the strategic map, Bianliang city can be called the most prosperous city. The amount of goods that can be traded every day is simply astronomical. When there is a shortage of goods, they can usually be bought here. If there are more goods, they can be sold here. It's too ideal, isn't it? Once the explorer leaves this place, the international trade that has always been going on may not be so smooth. Although the explorer was a bandit from Liangshan, he was awarded the title of third-class Earl because he completed the hidden mission and brought the hidden profession Jedi Knight to the Song dynasty. He was in no danger in Tokyo City. Even though the officials knew that he was a bandit from Liangshan, as long as he did not commit crimes, the people of the Song dynasty would not arrest him. Various functional buildings in Tokyo City, such as military camps, libraries, etc., as well as major businesses, no longer restricted his entry and exit. With such good treatment, the explorer was reluctant to leave. In addition, the explorer's secondary purpose of staying in Tokyo was to practice. As he took office as the deputy star of Tianxian Star, he could summon Gongsun Sheng's projection once a day to serve him for 1 hour. This is a good opportunity to learn from Gongsun Sheng, a master of Taoism. Even if Xiaoming is not there, Xiao San'er will continue to learn, because he actually needs to practice Taoism more. It just so happens that the explorer's Taoist profession level is still low. In the early stage, under the guidance of Gongsun Sheng's projection, as long as he practices hard, the level should grow very quickly. Later, the researcher's friend and colleague, little lowly Song Xiaofeng, also joined in. She is also a Taoist priest, playing in Bianliang City while practicing. For some reason, Gongsun Sheng's projection is particularly fond of Song Xiaofeng, and even deliberately extended his stay to teach her. He is too partial. This situation must be possible if Gongsun Sheng himself operates the projection. The explorer is Gongsun Sheng's disciple, and has never received such treatment. Song Xiaofeng is just an NPC who smuggled from the strategic map, and is not a member of the section. She actually received such caring teachings from Gongsun Sheng. Could it be that this old Taoist has any special hobbies? He is old and does not practice. Unfortunately, the little lowly has no long-term nature. She always fishes for 3 days and dries the net for 2 days, and the effect of her practice has not been very good. However, the explorer's second profession Taoist priest is constantly growing, and now he is an 8th level Qi refiner. He has learned some basic skills of drawing talismans and exorcising ghosts, which are almost useless. Song Xiaofeng felt very happy. She could go shopping in a big city like Bianliang, and there was an explorer who accompanied her throughout the whole process and spent money on her lavishly. She was so happy. Therefore, the little girl was very dependent on the explorer. If she didn't see him for a while, she would search everywhere to find him. If she ran away suddenly this time, she would probably be nagging for a long time when she returned in the future. I don't know how many unequal treaties she would have to sign before she could calm down. The Liangshan forces didn't care. They thought that since the explorer had already served as the deputy star of Tianxian Star and the treatment was so good, they basically didn't worry about switching jobs. Unless other forces could give better treatment. The Liangshan high level thought that this was almost impossible. No one would pay more for a level 3 character. Little did they know that although no people were willing to pay more, there were gods who were willing to pay. Especially those gods who were very weak and in urgent need of resurrection. Tokyo City had a large population and developed business. There were actually many opportunities to receive special tasks. However, Xiao's ability to adapt to changes is far inferior to that of players, so it is difficult for him to receive any good tasks. He almost always does business-type tasks. With the help of the interconnected warehouses of the 4 characters, the explorer can always complete the tasks quite perfectly. However, the experience rewards for such tasks are generally not high, they give more gold coins. In addition, as the founder of Jedi Knight, the explorer has the quota to grant 3 people the profession of apprentice Jedi Knight and open the Force seed every week. It doesn't matter when Xiaoming is there in person. There is no quota, and Xiaoming himself has the ability to grant the Force seed. However, it is different when the intelligent program is in control. Anyway, Xiao has exchanged these quotas for a lot of money and resources. Unfortunately, it can't be exchanged for experience points, which is of no help for upgrading. Therefore, in the past month or so, the explorer can only be said to have grown a little, but it is unsatisfactory. Now it is about level 22 of level 3. Because it is too far away from the maximum level of 40, Xiaoming is too lazy to wait for him to reach the maximum level. I just hope that God Odin can give him a few more high experience tasks. Arriving at the top of Nymphus Mountain, the wind blew snowflakes as big as goose feathers everywhere. Athens never snows, only the top of this mountain has constant snow and wind all year round. This is not a problem of too high altitude, but simply because Odin's remaining microcosm is still lingering in this area. Xiaoming immediately activated his own microcosm, hoping to resonate with Odin's microcosm to a certain extent. Sure enough, Odin probably hadn't seen a living person for a long time. His little universe immediately began to communicate with the explorer. It seemed a bit hungry and indiscriminate. But it is understandable, after all, even his believers can only worship at the bottom of the frozen cliff. They almost don't have the ability to climb to the top. One thing needs to be explained. In the main game, the great gods such as Odin and Athena who are believed by people will hardly die completely. They can only be weak to the point of being infinitely close to death. In fact, Odin and his friends are in this state. Therefore, their remaining little universe still has a certain spirituality. Of course, that's all, just subconsciously guiding the destined people to help themselves. Only after getting enough little universe supplements and being resurrected can they really consciously do something and command and guide the believers. Just like Athena now. Following Odin's little universe, Xiaoming struggled forward in a blizzard where he couldn't see his hand in front of his face, and finally came to the ruins of Odin's temple covered by ice. This kind of blizzard is actually collateral damage. Players walk in the wind and snow, and their life, physical strength, and even magic power are consumed at a very high rate. If it were someone else, it would be difficult to hold on in one go. They need to carry tents, food, water, and other necessities with them, and walk and rest to get here. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 1610. LLL Omega. After more than half an hour, the explorer standing on the ruins of the Odin temple had black lines on his head. Things seemed to be getting a little weird. At the beginning, Xiaoming found that the Odin temple buried under the ice layer did not seem very spectacular and could not be the main temple of Odin. But Odin's remaining small universe only brought him here and no longer guided him to other places. Xiaoming also suspected that this might be the ruins of the temple of Tianquan Star, which would be good. After all, he had served as a Tianquan Star god warrior for a period of time and mastered the trick of amethyst seal. It makes sense to be attracted to this place. But after a careful experience, he found that there was no feeling of communication with Tianquan Star here. So it can only be Odin's temple. So Xiaoming decided to get the ruins to the ground first. The method is also very simple. Just condense the 7 Yao Shadow clones with the ability of Magma Fruit and use magma to melt the ice layer. In just a few minutes, a large area of ice melted nearby, and the ruins of the Temple of Odin were exposed. Because it was sealed by ice, the ruins were relatively intact, unlike the Temple of Athena, which was scattered and even the statue of the goddess was not left. Entering the main hall of the temple, Xiaoming saw a statue of Odin more than 3 meters high. Wearing a cloak, wearing armor, holding a sword in his left hand and a shield in his right hand, I have to say that the statue of Odin looks good. It is no less than the statue of Athena in his first palace. Feeling that the place is right, the explorer knelt on one knee and began to release his own small universe. Although kneeling to Comrade Odin is a bit cheap, we are playing a game, so don't worry too much. Xiaoming thought that it would be the same as the process on Athena's side, consuming a lot of small universes to revive Odin. The result was not the case. Only a part of the small universe was paid, and the great god Odin was not really resurrected. The explorer only got a message from the great god, which was probably recorded in advance. The content is very simple, that is, a coordinate is added to the explorer's adventure map. The coordinates point to the real Nordic fairy palace. Judging from its location, it should be located between Norway and Sweden, deep in the northern part of the Scandinavian mountains. The explorer must go there to truly revive the great god Odin. After all the hard work here, he didn't even give any experience. The system is too stingy, at least give a little. In fact, this temple is actually a contact point established by the great god Odin on the territory of the Greek sanctuary goddess Athena. It is equivalent to an embassy between countries. Similarly, the 2 temples of Poseidon and Hades in Athens are also embassies. And it's not just Athens. The hometowns of the other 3 gods, the Nordic fairy palace, the undersea temple, and the Hades temple also have embassies from the other 3 gods. This is called reciprocity. It can be seen that in the background setting of the main game of Magic Planet, they are not opponents who fight to the death. It is a relationship similar to the competition and coexistence between countries. Therefore, there are 2 ways to revive any of the 4 gods. Take the goddess Athena for example, players can either revive her directly in the Parthenon, or they can get the coordinates from the goddess's embassy in the other 3 gods' hometowns, and then travel thousands of miles to Athens to revive the goddess. In this way, Xiaoming's other 3 characters will have to work hard. They have to travel far to the hometowns of the other 3 gods. Fortunately, there are coordinates to guide them, instead of blindly searching. After understanding this, the explorer planned to turn around and go down the mountain. As for whether to find the Nordic Asgard according to the coordinates, he still had to think about it and weigh the pros and cons. However, just as he turned around to leave, he suddenly stopped. Intuition reminded Xiaoming that there was something strange nearby. It was not that there were enemies, but that some things were still useful. Xiaoming turned around quickly, followed his intuition, and finally found a clue in a collapsed house in this abandoned temple. Lifting the stones and debris on the ground and waving away the thick dust, Xiaoming saw something very familiar, Teleportation array. That's right. Since this is an embassy, there must be a passage for people to travel to and from the Asgard. The best passage in the game is naturally the teleportation array. Needless to say, this teleportation array must be a damaged and abandoned teleportation array, and it has long lost its function. But this is not a big problem. Repairing things is Xiaoming's strong point. This is not even the first teleportation array that Xiaoming has repaired, it's a piece of cake. After outputting another wave of source energy, the explorer finally came to the real Nordic Asgard. Looking around, Xiaoming nodded, and it was roughly the same as the Nordic Asgard in the Saint Seiya world. The palace-like buildings are basically the same, except that there is not even a living person here, and they are all covered with ice and snow. And because there are no civilians, there are very few residential houses here, only the ruins of an Asgard, which looks extremely depressed and dilapidated. Those who believed in Odin at that time may have lost the response of God and could not persist in living in this bitter cold place for a long time, and finally had to leave. Some people even went to Athens. Forget it, it's none of my business. Following the guidance of Odin's microcosm, the explorer teleported a few times and arrived under the statue of Odin. This statue of Odin is more than 30 meters high and magnificent. This is what a statue should look like. Unfortunately, even if it is tall, without the blessing of God, it is just a statue. At this time, Xiaoming did not offer his small universe immediately. Why? Of course, he remembered the previous incident in Cancer Palace. Xiaoming thought that the explorer should first find the ruins of a palace of god warriors to comprehend it, open the small universe in advance, and upgrade to level 5. Isn't it good? However, 8 out of 10 things in the world are not as expected. The system did not make such an arrangement. In other words, the things in Cancer Palace in Athens are special and cannot be replicated. Anyway, the explorer searched inside and outside the Nordic Fairy Palace several times, not to mention that he could not find the Tianqingxing Palace that he was familiar with, and he could not find any ruins of the Palace of God Warriors. Unknowingly, the 14th passed. The next day, November 15th, Xiaoming went online early in the morning and searched back and forth twice, but still found nothing. He had to return to the statue of Odin dejectedly and offer his small universe. In fact, the location where the researcher had offered his small universe to the goddess in the Temple of Athena was also the location of the original largest statue of Athena. It's just that the statue of Athena was not frozen and preserved, so it was destroyed long ago. So it seems that the researcher offered his small universe in an open space. A little silly.